Welcome back to the only podcast that goes a full 110 yards. This is Placed on the 55 with Jon and Jess. I'm Jon.
I'm Jess the Raspberry.
That's sweet. I like it. You're going to go with Jess the Raspberry?
You know what? I bought a BC Lions jersey. We're talking about a jersey last week. I paid $200 last year for a BC Lions jersey that I wanted. And it has raspberry written on the back with the number 99.
I like the black jerseys. I think they look pretty sweet. The jerseys I don't love are the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Something about the W's and the gold and the blue. I know it's like one of the classic like Canadiana jerseys of the CFL, but it's just not my favorite.
I'll tell you what I dislike the most are the Argo baby blue jerseys. Those are horrible. Like, I was actually even just talking to my mom. She was watching a game like earlier this week, and she's like, the Argos jerseys look just weak. I'm like, good comment. But they do. They look like shit. Like, they should go back to the hard blue versus the baby blue, I think. I don't know.
Maybe they talked to some marketers and they felt like that tested well amongst their focus groups.
Sure. And now they get 11,000 fans a game. Good job.
That stadium was empty on the weekend. There was nobody.
It looks horrible. Like, Los Angeles did a very good job not having a national football team in LA for over 10 years. They were just fine. So I don't think we need a team in Canada's largest city, especially when Canada's largest city doesn't seem to give a shit.
Yeah, and you think there's a larger audience or fan base in Markham?
Markham, I don't know the Greater Toronto area all that well, but a suburb of Toronto. I don't think like the people that live in the big high rises around Skydome and want to go to Argos games. They clearly are not doing it. So the thought is you kind of maybe you move it out to Markham or I don't know the names of these towns but a suburb of Toronto that it's kind of a more suburb mentality where you might get 25, 30,000 people to a game, and that should be extremely easy when they have 6 million, 7 million people in the greater area. Especially when they went six. It's not like they're shit. They went 16-2 last year, and they still get no respect.
I like Mr. Doman's whole strategy of making it the BC Lions.
Mm-hmm.
He's not focusing on one city like Toronto. He's focusing on the entire province and heading out to Victoria in September.
The game sold out. They only had maybe 17,000 tickets. Doman is from Victoria, and he does want to make it a provincial team. I wouldn't be surprised if they have a game maybe up in Prince George in the next season or two.
That'd be cool. We had a crazy week last week. Let's not bury the lead and get right into the fact that the Hamilton Tiger Cats are probably the worst team in the CFL.
Yeah, they're 0-3. There's a couple other 0-3 teams out there as well. Your pick of so far of the Tabbies going to the Grey Cup looks pretty poor. I thought the Tabbies maybe third in the East. They'd be blessed to be third in the East. The East is going to be made up between Montreal and Toronto, and Hamilton and Ottawa will figure out third and fourth, but it's not looking good for the Tabbies.
Bo Levi, in the first two games, he looked good, and you kind of thought he's coming back, but he just looked off.
There were some overthrows. It was close for the Tabbies. Well, at a point.
And I was really looking forward to being right finally on the Tabbies. I've gone 0-3 on all of my bets with them this year. And coming into that game, I was 3 for 3 and really thinking I was about to shoot the moon and go 4 for 4.
Yeah.
I ended the week 3 for 4, as did you. And your loss came in a surprising game on Saturday.
Yeah, with Toronto winning, but just by 3 points, and they were favored by about 6.5. What was surprising with that for me was how good Edmonton actually looked, and Edmonton is still 0-3, but they don't look like as a bad of a 0-3 team as they did last year. I think there's actually some hope in that Edmonton camp. Yeah, it was sucky for me. Like other than that, I would have gone 4-0, but it happens. At least I was 3-1, and so were you. So good on you for that. You just you fucked up by betting on your tabbies. If you didn't do that, you would have done awesome.
Yeah, I will not be betting on the Tabbies again, I don't think.
Oh yeah, okay.
I mean, like you said, they're 0-3, just like Edmonton, but they look substantially worse than Edmonton. Edmonton looks like they're right on the cusp of winning a game, and then
Yeah.
there's a walk-off field goal. And the punting by Toronto on Saturday was incredible. You wouldn't think a punt would have such an impact on a game, but the way that their punter was just pinning Edmonton deep in their own zone, really impressive.
I agree, and it's all about field position. Wally Bonner was huge on that. I remember he used to give up safeties to give up to get field position, and that used to piss me off because we'd give up 2 points because he didn't want to give up 3.
The first two games of the week weren't really that much of a surprise. Even though BC was considered the underdog heading into Winnipeg, they beat Winnipeg. Winnipeg started 0-3. The running back returned for the season. He looked great. I think their run game is really strong. I don't think they're going to go 0-4, but we'll get into that later.
Yep, exactly. BC was given 2.5 free points. And like at one point, I remember texting you in the third quarter, it was 20-7 for BC. And we still had 2.5 free points. It was looking like an easy peasy victory.
Down to the wire, as they say. Nail biter. I think with BC, when you look back at their loss against Toronto, who had a really strong run game, they look like they have some problems. I think when they face a team with a strong run game in the future, it's going to be a lot closer and maybe a bit of a struggle for them unless they start to pull things together over the next week or so.
Yeah, we'll see. And that's what's cool about the CFL.
Why don't we wrap up week 3 with the first game of the week, which was Montreal and Ottawa, both undefeated teams. Ottawa did not start well.
Well, I got the final being Montreal 47 versus 21 to Ottawa. So Montreal easy covered that spread. Not too surprising. Montreal, they won the Grey Cup last year. And what I forgot to mention last week is that that was Montreal's third game of the season, but the first game at home. And they unveiled the Grey Cup banner of winning the Grey Cup last year. And you had to imagine all those Alouettes that were on that team last year were super pumped to play an Ottawa team that, isn't all that good. And they weren't that good last year, and they beat them 47-21. And the fact that they were only 6.5 point favorites, that I should have bet everything I had on that game.
Ottawa beat Winnipeg in their previous match, and I just think people expected Ottawa to be a better team than they actually are. So season to date, you are now at the top of Mount 500. You're 6 wins and 6 losses out of 12 potential games. I'm sitting at 5-7. Not bad.
It's not bad. Yep, I strive to be better. I was almost at 650 or 700 last season.
Keep a close watch on it and climb that ladder, as they say.
Yeah.
We're heading into week 4. First game up is Edmonton. They're going to start the game with 6.5 points based on the spread against the BC Lions. What are you thinking about this one?
I don't think Edmonton is that great, and only 6.5 at BC. Yeah, I might be a bit of a homer for what I might be wearing at the time, but if I thought the Lions were going to lose, I'd tell you. BC at home versus a weak Edmonton team, I'm taking the Lions to cover that spread. What do you think?
I don't think the Lions are as good of a team as I want them to be. If Edmonton wins outright, I wouldn't be surprised. I think they're definitely going to win with a free 6.5 points.
What? What are you talking about? Vernon Adams looked so great last week. Are you kidding me? He looks like he's going to be the most valuable player of the league.
Vernon Adams looked incredible against Winnipeg. I'll give you that. Vernon Adams' stats look incredible for the season. But you look at the Elks and McLeod Bethel Thompson, he's playing really well. And that's the thing. They've lost 3 games now. Only one game they've lost by 8 points. That was game one. The other 2 games they've lost by 3. So if you're going to give Edmonton 6.5 against BC, who I kind of have a big question mark around, I'm going to go with Edmonton. But with 6.5 points, I think they'll win with the spread.
And Beth Thompson, he's a good quarterback. Like he kind of went away for a couple of years there, but like he played really well for the Argos. I can't remember if he actually went to a Grey Cup, but they definitely won some Eastern Finals.
He's only 60 yards behind Vernon Adams for passing yards this season. So
Well,
they're right there, 1 and 2. Bo Levi Mitchell's number 3. I don't know how. Nobody catches his passes.
except the the defense.
So for game 1, you've got BC.
I'm taking the Lions. Yeah, they'll win by a touchdown for sure.
Well, I'm going to go Edmonton. I'm going to take the 6.5 on my side.
Okay, good luck with that. All right.
2 more teams, both undefeated on Friday night. Montreal heading into Toronto. They're considered the favorites, so
They are.
they got to win by 3.5 or more. What do you think?
I got Montreal underlined on this one. Sure, they're in Toronto, but it's not really much of a home team advantage in Toronto. Don't get me started on how the Argos should be playing in some other town. I'm surprised of how well Montreal's done so far this season, and 3.5 points over the Boatmen. I'll take them.
Montreal, I don't think is due for a loss. This game will probably result in a high score. I don't think either are really defense orientated. I think they're all offense. It just feels like Toronto is not going to have much of an answer to Montreal, and they're probably going to lose by 10 or 14.
Yeah, I definitely think they're going to cover the 3.5. So I'll put my few bucks on the Owls on that one.
This Sunday, we've got Winnipeg showing up at Calgary. Haven't seen Calgary. They had a bye last week. Do you think Winnipeg is going to overcome Calgary and start the season 1-3?
Calgary's kind of at 1-1, as I would expect that they're going to be middle of the road in the West Division. Winnipeg at 0-3, they got something to prove. I mean, they went to the Grey Cup last year. They're minus 3.5 points on the road in Calgary. It's not a very long road trip. I like Michael O'Shea to get his teams together and cover that 3.5 points.
I feel like Winnipeg is going to win. There's probably a lot of angry players that want to take their frustration out against the Stampeders. I don't see them losing and starting 0-4. I see 1-3 coming out of Sunday's matchup. So they got to win by more than 3.5. Again, it's so small. I'm going to take Calgary.
You are?
Yeah.
You're taking the 3.5 free points?
I think I will in this game.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Just haven't seen much out of Calgary. I mean, there's got to be a close game this week. It's not going to be the last game of the week. So I'm going to go Calgary. They'll probably lose, but maybe they only lose by a couple points.
They could easily lose by just a field goal, and then you would win. So that 3.5, like that, a little half a point, and sometimes can bite you in the ass, eh?
Hey, we had 2 weeks where a walk-off field goal ended 2 individual games.
Yeah, the spread makers know what they're doing.
Last game of the week, got Hamilton at Ottawa. Hamilton is coming in as the underdogs, so they're getting 2.5 points on this one. What do you think about these Tabby Cats?
Well, I don't think your Tabbies are going to advance into the Eastern Final, but I think they're going to win this game, and I'll take the 2.5 points for your Tabbies. I'm going to call them your Tabbies. I'm not too impressed with Ottawa. They haven't really had too much of a matchup so far. They're just 1-1. I'll take the 2.5 with Hamilton. That's got something to prove, and I think Bo Levi is going to show up and play well if he's not hurt.
Yeah, Ottawa had to start the season against both of the Grey Cup competitors from last year. Winnipeg was a surprise because nobody expected them to play as poorly as they did. Montreal just wiped the floor with Ottawa last week. Hamilton, I think, is just so dysfunctional right now. They can't pull anything together, and they're going to lose to the Ottawa Red Blacks. And I think Ottawa is going to beat them by more than 2.5. So I'm going to go with Ottawa on this game.
All right, you're going against your own Tabbies. Well, we'll see how that works. Saskatchewan Roughriders have the bye this week, and then next week they host the Argos in week 5, so that'll be interesting. But we'll talk about that, next week.
Before we sign off, Jess, we had some fan mail this week. So this week we had fan mail from our friend Gavin, who lives in the UK, and what he's asking about the football. So historically, the CFL football used to be of a different size or different dimensions than the NFL.
There was a CFL campaign back in the mid-90s that was called like "Our Balls Are Bigger," and they were. It was a Spalding football at the time. It was Spalding like J53. I don't know. I forget the exact number, but it was a Spalding football. And now they've transitioned over to a Wilson football that is the same size as the NFL football. This is a version of the CFL football. It's a Wilson football with the CFL logo. Oop, looks like French there. Turn it around. That's your CFL football. And it's the same size as the American football. The only difference is the white paint.
Thanks for that listener mail, Gavin. If you want to write the show, you can send us a text or email to placedon55pod@gmail.com. Link in the show notes below.
All the way from the UK.
All the way from the UK, yeah. A Canadian overseas, still following the CFL.
And you were saying that we have some listeners from the United States as well. I wonder where they're coming from.
I have no idea, but I do wonder. Like, subscribe, review. All right, it's been good talking to you, Jess. That's our week. Speak to you after week 4.